Hello everyone and welcome to a couple of games from yesterday's FIDE World Rapid Championship. It was day 3 and we already know who the winner is. The winner is none other than 18-year-old Volodar Murzin, Volodar Arturovic Murzin. We've already covered his game against Hikaru yesterday, and he is 18 years old, like the world classical champion Gukesh, who is also 18 years old, hence the title. I thought it'd be, fitting. But I'm not just going to show you one game because this is the one you guys requested the most, his penultimate round game against Praggnanandhaa. I will also show you his game against Fabiano Caruana and also, well, we'll see how it goes, but probably 3 games. But we're only going to deeply analyze the one against Pragg. So yeah, let's check it out. It was a pretty crazy event. He went undefeated in this field, and also I found this to be absolutely incredible. He also went undefeated last year in the World Rapid Championship. So that is, that is just he got 5th place last year. This year he just won clear first. So absolutely incredible. By the young gentleman. And yeah, let's check out the just quickly go through the game. We're not going to analyze it deeply. This is his game against Fabiano Caruana. From round 2, he played e4, c5. Fabi went for the Sicilian defense, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3. The so-called traditional line, not opening up the center with d4 right away. Knight f6, and now pawn to d4. Captures, and pawn to e5. Knight to b5, transposing into the, well, basically with e5, transposing into the Sveshnikov line or the Pelican or the Lasker, depending on when you started playing chess. The line has different names. I guess since Fabi and Magnus played it a lot in their World Chess Championship match, you could also, call it the Magnus, as Magnus was playing black here. But here, Fabi is the one playing black, and Volodar is playing white. So it's definitely a nice challenge to throw Fabi's way. d6, we have bishop to g5, a6, bishop to a3, and pawn to b5. So a bit of a different line than was used in the World Championship match. Knight d5, bishop e7, captures, and pawn to c4. So this is like the Chelyabinsk variation, the really old line. b4, okay, this was all seen before, nothing new being played here. g6, queen d3, bishop g7, rook a d1, and bishop to e6. So both players just nicely developing. Bishop to f3, queen to b8, and pawn to b3. Queen to a7, putting the queen on this diagonal is usually very useful. King to h1, unpinning, and rook to b8. We have g3, rook to b7, bishop to g2, and now queen to c5. Sort of a question mark by the interface, but at this level and with the little time on the clock, nothing really to worry about. We have pawn to f4, knight to d4, knight to e3, a4, and now pawn to f5 by Volodar. We have bishop captures on d5, knight captures, and a captures on b3. A captures and rook to a7. Fabi grabs hold of the a file, queen to e3, and pawn to f6. We have h4, rook to a2, and now pawn to g4. And this is where things get really, really interesting. And already the situation on the clock is very interesting. Volodar 5 minutes, Fabi almost 5 minutes. We have knight to e2 and queen to h3. Rook to f7, and this is where the trouble for Fabi starts, as Volodar finds the absolute best move, pawn to g5. You could also capture on g6 first, but g5 works. Fabi played queen to c8, and now rook to d3. A rook lift, as the rook might also help out with the attack against the black king. F captures on g5, h captures, g captures on f5. Not the greatest of moves, as the queen on c8 is undefended. So e captures on f5, and now pawn to e4. And you could really bust through with pawn to f6 and trade queens. But Volodar decides to keep the queens on the board for the moment. Rook e3, bishop to e5, and now bishop captures on e4. We have rook f to a7, queen to g4, and now knight to c3. We have rook to h3, sort of not using the position in the best way possible, but both of them are already 30 seconds on the clock, so you can expect many mistakes here. King to h8, we have g6 as the h-pawn is now pinned, and rook to a1. We have captures, king to g2, rook back to a7, guarding the h7 pawn, and here Volodar captures. Rook captures, pawn captures, and now you cannot move the queen away from the back rank if you don't want to get checkmated. So knight captures on e4, queen captures, and queen to a8. We have queen to c2, again, not the best move, allowing Fabi queen to a7, but still, white will be the one with the edge, and it's very, very hard to play. But king captures on h7 was played, king to f3, f6 check was much better, queen to a1, and now knight to e3. King g7, queen to d1, and queen to c3. King to e4, now the king is coming to help out with the attack. King to f8 with queen to d3, offering a queen trade, and Fabi goes queen to c1. With king to d5, queen to a1 with check, pawn to, no, just queen to a1, pawn to c5 captures, and now king to e6. And this is something that happens quite a lot in pretty much all of the games that I've seen Volodar played in this championship. He just uses his king so well. Just really, really incredible. King e6, we have queen to d4, and at this point, it's still equal. With bishop to d4, Fabi can still hold a draw, or even with bishop to c7. However, after this queen move, the position is just winning, because now queen captures on d4, c captures on d4, bishop captures also doesn't help, as the knight comes to c4. But after pawn captures, now comes knight to d5, and there is no way to save the b4 pawn. And now it's an elementary endgame that Volodar wins easily. Knight captures with king g7, knight e3, bishop h4, and pawn to b4. As usual, the b pawn will win the game. Bishop to d8, and now pawn to b5. King to h6, and now pawn to f6. And the bishop is helpless against both of the passed pawns. Once this pawn touches the square, it's gonna be impossible to stop both of them. You will have to give up the bishop for one of them, or no, you just even capture, and then the other pawn marches forward. So there is no way you can play this. So as you've seen, I mean, incredible game. He even mentioned in the interview that this was probably the best game, or maybe the hardest best game that he played, and he outplayed none other than Fabiano Caruana. So okay, let's go to the game against the Duda. This was also a pretty big one, as here, let me just check this. He faced the Duda. He faced the Duda right after beating Hikaru. So you beat Hikaru, and then you face Duda. Definitely not an easy matchup. But like I said, he went undefeated last year, and he's been undefeated so far in the tournament. So doesn't matter who he faces. He just plays good chess. So let's just briefly go through his game against Duda. d4, knight f6, knight f3, c5, c3, pawn to e6, and bishop to f4. Sort of a delayed London system. d5, e3, bishop to d6, knight bd2, castles. Okay, nothing spectacular being played here, just standard London moves. Knight captures on c6, captures on g3, h captures, b captures on c6, and now pawn to g4. And okay, the king is still on e1, but the rook has the semi-open h-file, and at some point you will break through with g5. So Duda played rook to b8, went after the b2 pawn, queen e2 defending, c4, bishop to c2. Of course, captures is impossible, as a discovery will be made, and then you're going to blunder that exchange. e5, we have captures, and now Volodar castles queenside. So it's a pretty crazy position where I guess it depends on how well you know such structures, but Duda is the one who's up on the clock. We have rook e8, rook to h5, and now queen to e6, rook to d4, and rook to e7, bishop to f5, attacking the queen moves, and a trade of light square bishop. So captures, and queen f3. Volodar just offers a queen trade. Duda says yes, but we're gonna trade on my terms, and Volodar trades queen. So captures, and this is the position that you have both players below 2 minutes. It's a rook and pawn endgame, and well, if played well or reasonably well by both players, should be a draw. So okay, a couple of more moves were played, nothing really spectacular happening here, just standard rook and pawn moves. And here we have this rook to e6 moment from Duda, where pawn captures was played, and now you cannot recapture back. Okay, so there's the problem of the e pawn. But okay, e5, rook goes to e6, and now rook captures on c5. And here you should capture on e5, and it's still perfectly playable, and it will probably end in a draw. However, king g7 was played, king d2, now king to g6, still waiting with the capture, rook f2, and now rook to b8. Duda going after the b2 pawn, now pawn to b3, b4 was even stronger, rook to b5, and now rook to e2. With pawn to h5, captures, captures, rook c to e4, again defending the pawn, and rook to d5 with check. King to c2, we have king g6, c4, and rook goes back. We have g4, pawn to c5, and now rook to d2, offering a trade of rooks. And again, Duda has a very clear way to draw the game. Rook captures, king captures, and pawn to f5. Beautifully found. Rook to e1 and f captures on g4. So now Duda also with the passed g pawn. We have b4, c captures, and now king to d3. And again, all of a sudden there are two passed pawns that Duda needs to worry about, and a very clear path for that white king to march forward. g3, Duda advances the passed pawn. King e4, we have rook to a6 going after the pawn, and rook to e2 defending. King f7, king to d5, and king to e7. Remember, this is still a draw. c5, we have rook to a3, and now pawn to c6. Rook to c3, pawn to e6, and now pawn to a5. Also looking forward to creating another pass pawn. Rook to e5 going after the g5 pawn, and now pawn to a4. Rook captures on g5, pawn to b3, Duda marching his pawns forward, captures, captures, and now rook to g7 check. And this is one of those moments where you just play, to play. King to d8 is a draw, king to e8 is a draw, king to f8 is a draw, but as it often is, you choose the only square that is not a draw, and that is what Duda played. He played king to f6, and now you don't have to move the rook, even though the rook is attacked, rather pawn to e7. The only winning move, but Volodar finds it. And the problem is not that you cannot stop the pawn, it's that you're going to lose this pawn, and then you will have a winning rook and pawn endgame. So here, rook to d3 check, king c4 attacks the rook, rook e3, and now the beautiful move, rook captures on g3. And now you cannot capture because the pawn becomes a queen. So you have to go after rook e4 check, king d5, b2, threatening the queen. Now rook b3, and rook to e5 with check. King to d4, rook captures on e7, rook captures on b2, and now rook to e1, hoping to get the rook behind the passed pawn. But again, this is a very well-known winning endgame, and it requires a few more moves to be played, but you will use a very special rook rule that you guys, of course, know what I'm talking about, as you are such exceptional players. King e7, king b6, few more moves were made, and now here it comes. Rook to e4, rook to b1, and king to d7. And okay, we'll give another check, and now there is no more point in giving checks, because a check will be met with king to c5, and then a check back at c1 will be met with rook to c4. That's why you put the rook on the 4th rank. Rook to c2 was played, rook to e5, and he was in this position on move 77 that young Krzysztof Duda resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Next, you're going to play rook c5, and then the pawn can become a queen. It's as simple as that. One check can be given. You're going to move the king to c6 and promote the pawn to a queen, easily winning. So just obliterating everyone, regardless of who he faces, and that brings us to our game against Praggnanandhaa. And Praggnanandhaa definitely wants to win this, not just to win the World Rapid Championship, not just because he has the white pieces, but also because he lost to Volodar last year in the 2023 World Rapid Championship. So let's check it out. We're going to analyze this a bit more deeply, as like I said, it was the the hardest one to play, and also the most requested one from you guys. So let's see what happened. E4, E5, knight f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. We have bishop to c5, Volodar giving Pragg the opportunity, as he gave Hikaru, but Pragg also doesn't go for the strongest move. He plays pawn to c3. Hikaru played pawn to d3. We have knight to f6, and now pawn to d4. Striking in the center, the so-called center attack, e captures, and now c captures on d4 is the main line, is the move that everyone plays, and is the one that you should know very well. However, in the olden days, and even in modern chess, if you want to try and surprise someone, you can play pawn to e5. I was a fan of this line and really tried playing it, but when you get a bit of a higher level, then if your opponent knows about the d5, if everyone does, you're just not going to have the best game. And of course, d5 is the only move that doesn't give white the better position. Bishop to b5, knight to e4, and now c captures on d4. We have bishop back to b6. You could also give a check, but bishop to b6 is the main line. Knight to c3, and now castles kingside. We have bishop to e3, bishop to f5, and now castles kingside. And here, again, it is a well-known position. Knight to e7 is a known move, f6 is a known move, h6 is a known move, even knight to a5 is a known move. But here we have knight captures on c3, and it is now as of move 11 that we have a completely new game. And if you look at the time on the clock, Pragg doing much better. He knows this position better, and it's a question whether he has something prepared against knight captures on c3. So okay, b captures, and now pawn to f6 by Volodar, again investing more than a minute in this breakthrough, and Pragg just plays queen to d2. Now it's a crazy position where probably you just capture, or you play the engine move pawn to a4, but I mean, if you don't know it, you're not gonna play it. Here queen to d2 was played, and Volodar continues playing, well, tailors his next move directly towards Pragg's previous move. Plays bishop to e4. Says, alright, you left the knight undefended, I just want to capture it and mess up your pawn structure. And Pragg gets a very neat idea, and he plays the strongest move recommended by the engine. Bishop captures on c6, b captures, and e captures on f6. So he invites bishop captures on f3. So bishop captures on f3, and now first a nice Zwischenzug, f captures on g7. Okay, rook to f7, and now g captures on f3. We have queen to f6, and now pawn to f4. It's a move you have to play, because if you allow rook captures on g7 with check, queen captures on f3 will be checkmate. So you really don't feel like putting a pawn on a dark square and really, locking in your bishop like this. You have to do it for the moment. But still, objectively, it's not a problem for white. We have queen to f5, and now king to h1. Pragg prepares to bring the rook over to the g file, even double f if possible. Rook captures on g7, and now queen to e2. We have king to f7. Volodar prepares to double up on the g file, and queen to f3. Rook to g1 would have been even better for Pragg. We have queen f3, rook 8 to g8, and now rook 8 to e1. Okay, we have queen to g4, as Pragg's king is a bit safer. Of course, it is in Volodar's interest to get the queens off the board. So queen g4, Pragg cannot avoid a queen trade here. Queen captures, rook captures, and now rook back to c1, with maybe ideas of pawn to c4, king to f6, and now pawn to c4 right away. We have king to f5, pawn to c5, now the bishop really without any squares. If you try to trapping the bishop with bishop to d2, then of course c5 would not have been allowed. You would simply capture the pawn. So bishop to a5, and now rook to b1, trying to go after rook b7, and then double up on the b file, and then infiltrate via the b8 square. We have rook to g2, a bit of a weird move. Now, if you imagine the king coming to h3, then rook captures on h2 will be checkmate, but there is no way for Volodar's king to cross. As soon as you play king g4, king captures on g2 will happen. So the idea is probably king e4 to f3, and then hope for the best. That's probably the idea. We have rook to b3, as Pragg's position is much better here. There is no doubt about that. Rook b3, king e4, rook f to b1, and now king to f3. Again, it's a neat square for the king, but not a lot to do there. And okay, you don't have any interesting discoveries. It's sort of a bit of a trap, because if you play like bishop to d2 check, and let's say you play king captures, and then bishop captures on a5, sorry, not bishop captures on a5. You cannot play bishop captures on a5. If you play bishop captures on a5, the trick was this checkmate. So maybe Volodar was playing, trying to trick Pragg into that, but Pragg doesn't fall for it. He just goes, even though it's not directly a losing move, it's only losing if you play captures on a5. He plays pawn to f5, which is the only winning idea for Pragg. We have king to e2, now comes pawn to f6, and now rook 2 back to g6. Going after the pawn, rook 3 to b2 with check, king back to f3, and rook to b3. And here Volodar repeats king to e2. His position is dead lost, and he's hoping for Pragg to go for a repetition, but Pragg doesn't. Pragg plays rook 1 to b2 with check, and he hands over the winning position over to Volodar. Now, the way to win this, I'm just going to show it as it's very nice, is f7. And now after rook to f8, now you go rook 1 to b2 check. Probably what Pragg had in mind, only he forgot to play the f7 move. And now if you play king to f1 and threaten checkmate, now pawn to f4 and you stop checkmate. And after rook captures on f7, you'll play rook to f2 with check, king to e1, and a nice rook to b1 checkmate. Or any of the lines, as all of them are winning. However, Pragg either missed it or he mixed up the move order. He doesn't play pawn to f7 check. He plays rook 1 to b2 with check. And now after king to f1, there is a huge problem here. Because, okay, Pragg maybe thought it was, the same because he can always bring the king back. But he cannot. After rook to b1 check, Volodar now played bishop to e1. And there is no defense against rook to g1 checkmate other than to give up the exchange. So Pragg had to give up the rook captures, king captures, rook to b1 with check, king to e2, and now bishop to f4. You can try to maybe create some sort of a mini fortress and hold the rooks with the bishop, but it's too much material. Bishop to g3, king to d3, rook to b4, and now rook to g4. Doesn't matter, going after the pawn here. We have rook to b7, trying to trade some pawns, and rook to f7. Pawn to f4, stopping rook captures here. But again, it doesn't matter. Pawn to h5. h4 is the threat, and here Pragg tries one last trick, king to g2, pawn to h4, and king to f3, hoping that the rook moves and then he gobbles up the pawn. But Volodar plays the absolute best move, h captures on g3, and there's nothing more to be done here. Pragg captured the rook, g2 was played, and he was in this position on move 45 that Praggnanandhaa resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. It seems like you can't bring the rook all the way to b1 to stop the promotion, but it doesn't matter because you still promote with check, and once the rook captures, now you go rook g7 check, and you pick up the rook. That's the problem. So incredible play by 18-year-old Volodar Murzin, taking down pretty much everyone. And then in the final round, let me just load it up. In the final round, he was paired against Karen Grigorian, and it was a draw, but it was enough for Volodar to win the game. And I also included this. These are his results from the 2023 World Rapid Championship. Look at this, undefeated. I checked even in 2022, and even his 2022 was incredible. He lost 2 games, and he lost the last game in that Rapid Championship. So, he's been undefeated for 26 games so far in this competition. And you look at this. I mean, in 2023, already in round 3, he was paired with Vidit Gujarati, and that was a draw. Jordan draw, Lauren Fressinet a draw, and then a victory against Pragg, again with the black pieces. Also a victory against Yanni Pomnishi with white, then a draw versus Dubov versus Rajabov versus Kaimer versus Grishuk, then a win versus Levon Aronyan, and then a draw against Nodirbek Abdusattorov in the final round. I mean, incredible, and he got 5th place in the end. But this year, okay, he faced Vuk Damjanovic in round 1, and then look at this, a victory versus Fabiano Caruana, a victory versus Alexander Botranik, victory versus Alexander Lenderman, then a couple of draws against the absolute world elite, against Levon Aronyan, against Leinier Dominguez Perez, against Arjun Erigesi, against Anish Giri, then victories against Hikaru Nakamura and Yang Krzysztof Duda, then a draw against Alexander Grishuk, who was also spectacular this event, then a victory with black against Praggnanandhaa, and then a nice draw against the Grigorian in the final round, making him the winner, the World Rapid Championship of 2024. And make no mistake, if you see, his performance, not his performance, if you see his rating 2588, make no mistake, he's not a 2588 player. He is the world elite, and as you can see, he played it with a performance of 2885. Before the final round, he was over 2900. A draw versus Grigorian got him below 2900. But yeah, if you see Volodar playing, don't look at his rating. He will beat everyone and anyone, and maybe next year someone will be able to take a full point from him. But for now, he's undefeated, and he does not mind playing fast and even faster. So I'm very much looking forward to what he does in the Blitz section. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. These are the standings. He wins clear first with 10 points. Grishuk and Nepo tied for second, or rather, Grishuk got second, Nepo got third due to better criteria. With 9 points, Leinier Dominguez, Arjun Erigesi, Javokr Sindarov, Alireza Firuja, Daniel Dubov, Karen Grigorian, then with 8.5 points, Sam Sevian, Anish Giri, Mohamed Muradli, Yuyangi, Shahriar Mamedjarov, Fabiano Caruana, number 15. Well, that just tells you what kind of a tournament it was and how strong the young players are, that maybe you haven't heard of a couple of years ago, but now are just, the world elite, the new world elite. This is the new world order. And as the title suggests, no country for old men. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. There are a lot of interviews, so you can check them online. If you guys are interested. I would like to thank Lawrence Brazier, Frank Pluy, an anonymous person, Timothy Rosen, and Mark Henley Brennan for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up the World Blitz Championship when it starts and until it finishes. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And, well, the rest of your year. See you soon.